Welcome back to the Alnwick Castle Podcast. I'm your host Daniel Watkins, and over the next 2 episodes of the podcast, we'll be exploring the Fusiliers Museum of Northumberland, an independent museum and charity set within the grounds of Alnwick Castle. In part 1, I'll be talking to Anne from the front of house team at the museum, who'll be telling us all about what it has to offer and the ways it engages with visitors, families and veterans from the Northumberland Fusiliers. In part 2, I'll be talking to the museum's Chair of Trustees, John Armstrong, about the long history of the regiment. Here's part 1 of our special on the Fusiliers Museum of Northumberland. Please enjoy. My guest on the Alnwick Castle podcast today, from the front of house team at the Fusiliers Museum of Northumberland, it's Anne. How are you today, Anne?
Very good. Great to be here, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
You've come over from the Fusiliers Museum, which is part of the Alnwick Castle visitor attraction, but not necessarily one that all our visitors might know about before they come. Can you start by telling us a little bit about what the Fusiliers Museum is and what it can offer to visitors?
The Fusiliers Museum celebrates 350 years of history of the county regiment that was known as the Northumberland Fusiliers. It had several name changes over the years. It became first the 5th Northumberland Regiment of Foot in 1782. Hugh Percy, the first Duke of Northumberland, was the Colonel-in-Chief at that point. Later it became the Northumberland Fusiliers and then the Royal Northumberland Fusiliers. In 1968, the regiment was amalgamated with other Fusiliers regiments just to become the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers. The Northumberland Fusiliers drew their men from the local area and they fought on every field of battle, including the American War of Independence, the Napoleonic Wars, the Boer Wars, and obviously World Wars I and II. More recently, the regiment was in Aden and involved in the Gulf Wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, among many other fields of conflict.
For you, Anne, you work in the museum with visitors, and you get to work in one of the most interesting towers of the castle, telling all of this history. Tell me about the Abbot's Tower.
Yes, the museum is in the Abbot's Tower in the corner of the Outer Bailey of Alnwick Castle, near the Barbican. It's one of the oldest parts of the castle. It was built, I think, around 1210, so it's more or less 800 years old.
Yeah, you have some of the oldest stones in the entire castle as part of the museum.
I think we do, and some of the wobbliest floors as well. I have to warn visitors just to be careful on the ground floor not to trip, because it is very worn. The tower is also supposedly haunted by the Abbot. I've never seen or heard anything spooky, but I have heard people say that on the top floor, late at night, when they're clearing up, sometimes they get a feeling of a presence being there. So if you're visiting us, just keep your eyes and ears open. You never know what you might see.
Yeah, Alnwick Abbey is not too far from the castle, and supposedly the Abbot might have come to that tower in times of danger to protect himself. So maybe he feels unsafe and he just likes it in his tower. Maybe. 800 years later.
Exactly.
He's well defended there as well, because there's an amazing collection of everything from that 350 years of history going all the way back to the 18th century up to the 20th century. What sort of things will people expect to see when they visit the museum?
I think people perhaps have a preconceived idea about a military museum, thinking perhaps they're going to see a lot of guns and armoury, but really the museum is presented as more of a social history of our soldiers and their stories. Rather than being a chronological timeline, the museum tells the stories of many families and how they were impacted by and involved in the regimental lives of their fathers and brothers and sons. There are many women's stories, including that of a very surprising and unusual soldier of the regiment called Phoebe Hessel.
And her story's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, in the 18th century, Phoebe fell in love with a Fusilier, and rather than wave him off to war, she wouldn't see him for months, years, perhaps at a time, she disguised herself as a soldier in order to follow him across Europe with the regiment. And she served as a soldier for many years before eventually being wounded in battle by a bayonet, and at that point all was revealed. But as I say, only after she had served for several years.
And you've got lots of personal items that help tell these family stories. I remember when I've been in there, the letters, the diaries, the little mementos kind of tell the stories of conflicts that most people have heard of, but in a really nice individual way. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the most interesting and curious artifacts that you like to talk about in the museum?
We do have many touching and poignant accounts in diaries and letters of love and loss, and many mementos that people have kept, as well as many stories of exceptional bravery. Some of the interesting artefacts include some of the food rations that soldiers would have received. We even have an original bar of chocolate, which was a souvenir given by Queen Victoria to soldiers during the Boer War.
Is the chocolate intact?
The chocolate is intact and untouched. I don't know if it's edible.
I was just going to ask, is it edible? I don't know if I'd want to find that out.
I wouldn't like to try. You can also see evidence of the great ingenuity that prisoners of war, British and German prisoners of war, what they made from whatever they had that came to hand, mugs made from empty tins. And we have some beautiful little wooden carvings made by German prisoners of war depicting a mother and children and soldiers. I think among the letters there are some heartrending accounts which visitors find really moving. We also have an account of a woman whose husband was killed in the war, and although she married again, she always kept a photograph of her first husband with her all her life, and was obviously deeply traumatised by his death. These sort of stories, I think people can really feel in tune with and understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot to see. All 3 floors of the tower are full of these stories, and what I like about the museum is it retains that medieval character of the tower as well. We do have to tell people about the spiral staircase.
We certainly do. The tower has quite a small footprint, but it has 3 floors, so there's a lot to see. But to link those floors, there is a very steep spiral stone staircase because it is an 800-year-old tower. Visitors often ask me, do we come in and go out the same way? And I say, yes, you do, because it's the same way up and down. So we do operate a kind of giveaway system to prioritise people coming down the stairs. They are really tight, but usually a shout works as well as anything. So a bit of a yell from the top, I'm coming down. There are some visitors who really don't like spiral staircases and make them dizzy. So anybody who has mobility issues or anybody who doesn't like to use the stairs, they can view a virtual tour on the ground floor, and we've also got other films that they can watch. So we wouldn't like any visitor to feel perhaps it wasn't something they could enjoy, because certainly if they come in and use the touch screen on the ground floor, they will get a very good overview of the collections and the history of the regiment.
And it's not just for grown-ups either, because when families come to Alnwick Castle for our performances and our activities and all our summer holiday stuff, they get to do the animal tracks trail in the museum, which sounds really fun, and I would like to have a go at it. But what am I looking for if I do the animal tracks trail? Okay,
so younger children, I'd say probably the under 12s get the best out of this. But we have got a lot of parents who rather enjoy it as well. So children are given an A4 sheet of paper called Animal Tracks, which is a museum trail, and it's really challenges them to use their skills of observation, to look at how animals are involved within the history of the regiment. We have everything from the rats in the World War I trenches to our well-beloved dogs, Sammy and Drummer, who are among our most popular exhibits, who are dogs that were mascots of the regiment.
We should add not dogs who are walking about the museum.
I'm afraid these are ex-dogs. They each have their own story to tell, and they were very well loved in their time. If they manage to tick all the boxes, and that some of them are quite challenging to find, some of the items, their reward is a sticker, and it is quite extraordinary the lengths most children will go to earn a sticker. I've seen some very tired and grumpy children, quite reluctant to come into a museum, completely transformed by the idea of earning a sticker. And we have quite a few mums and dads who feel that they deserve a sticker too. So if they behave themselves very well, they can occasionally earn a sticker as well.
That gives me hope that I might get a sticker next time I come and visit.
Let's hope so.
Oh, I hope so. We've put it on record now, so I think it might happen. And Alnwick Castle, obviously, we've said on previous episodes of the podcast, gets visitors from all around the world. The Fusiliers Museum gets many visitors who've got a connection to the regiment, to the history, relatives who might have served, or people who've served in the Fusiliers themselves. Can you tell us a little bit about the connections that people have to what you've got in the museum?
Yes, we get visitors from all around the world, and many do have a family connection to the Northumberland Fusiliers, perhaps through a grandfather or a great-grandfather, for instance, and they're looking for more information to help with perhaps researching their family history. Sometimes they come from as far away as New Zealand or the United States. We can put anybody who's interested in touch with the Regimental Archive, which is held in Falconer's Tower, which is just next door to Abbot's Tower. We have staff in there who are constantly cataloguing endless letters, diaries, medals, uniforms, and they also have access to an enormous amount of history that can help people find how their relative fitted into the story of the regiment.
Very busy, very active archive, which a lot of people find really helpful. And there are veterans of the Fusiliers who are still with us, who still come and visit to explore the history of what came before them or conflicts that they were involved in.
We have quite a few veterans who come to see us. Some of the more elderly people are those who have served in Aden. We also get serving Fusiliers who are now Royal Regiment of Fusiliers who are interested to come and see part of their history. And they're always quite moved by the experience. I think many visitors comment on how interesting and moving the displays are and how easy it is to relate to people's personal stories, even if they are from decades ago, and even perhaps if they don't have any particular link to the regiment. Just that family connection and the touching and poignant mementos that we have mean a lot. And we get a lot of comments in the visitors book about how moving the experience has been for people.
That is really moving, obviously, for adults, people who've served, but children who visit also get that connection. Aside from finding the dogs and the mice and getting that sticker, there are things that help relate it back to younger audiences as well, aren't there?
Yes, I think perhaps there's so much to do at Alnwick Castle with the broomstick rides and Dragon Quest, and they're the more obvious things. Perhaps visitors might not think there will be an awful lot of involvement for children within the museum. In fact, some of the stories do involve children as well. So, for instance, the drummer boys that were integral part and still are an integral part of the regiment, younger children as young as 6 or 7 served in the regiment and followed them all over Europe. And there is, for instance, a tiny little drummer boy's jacket on the ground floor of the museum, and I think a lot of parents and children marvel at how small some of the children were that were fully involved in the regiment. These drummer boys were quite often sons of fallen soldiers, and the regiment very much took them under their wing and looked after them as part of the family and provided them with an income and a career.
So that family connection, it's got all sorts of different meanings, really, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. There was the wider family of the wives and children, but certainly the regiment itself is a family, still is a family today, where everybody feels part of the same family.
Not only that, we've mentioned that the museum is part of Alnwick Castle as an attraction, but it is also a charity, and people can get involved and become part of that family in various ways.
Yes, they can. We have the Abbot's Tower within the castle to house the museum, and the Falconer's Tower to house the archive. But the museum is actually an independent charity. We rely on donations, and we encourage anyone with an interest in the Northumberland Fusiliers, for whatever reason, to become a friend of the museum, which again is just for a donation of their choice. Then they get a newsletter and they get notified of any special events, and the donation will help go towards helping with the archive and maintaining the collections. You can look at our website, which is northumberlandfusiliers.org.uk, for any information on that, or ask any of the front of house staff.
Of which you are one. And how did you find the museum? How did you find the Fusiliers?
I first got involved with the Fusiliers Museum when I retired to Northumberland and was looking for a small part-time job that was interesting to me. I have a family where there are a lot of serving soldiers, or have been serving soldiers, and so I'm very aware of the huge connection soldiers maintain even after they've left, and how their families are involved in what they do.
So if people want to get involved from around the world, they can pay a visit to the museum, but they can join you on social media as well. Can you tell us the Northumberland Fusiliers social media channels, please?
I can. So we've just dragged the Northumberland Fusiliers up into the 21st century by launching social media, just to try and give people a little more information about us. So give us a like or a follow on Facebook, which is at Northumberland Fusiliers, or you can find us on Instagram at Northumberland Fusiliers Museum. And you can also see some short films that we've just made about some of our soldiers' stories if you look for our channel on YouTube, which is called Fusiliers Museum of Northumberland. We have so many stories to tell that we can't possibly tell all of them within the museum, so we're hoping to use the social media channels to just engage people further with sheer amount of stories and interesting articles that we can share with people, and we hope that perhaps that'll make their visit more interesting for them as well.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today, Anne. Anything else to say before you head off back to the Abbot's Tower?
Just to say that remember that your entry ticket to Alnwick Castle gets you free entry to the museum. Please come and see us. No matter how old you are, how young you are, we're sure that you'll get something really enjoyable out of your visit. See you soon.
Please head to any of those social media links or the Fusiliers Museum website to learn more about what they do and what they can offer. Next time, on part 2 of our Fusiliers special, I'll be talking to John Armstrong about the history of the Northumberland Fusiliers, going back 350 years. If you enjoyed this episode of the Alnwick Castle Podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and let us know what you think by leaving a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I've been Daniel. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.